Well, I talk about shooting big bucks back behind bedding areas in the morning time all the time. And, you know, of course, we focus on that during the rut, the pre-rut, the rut lockdown, peak rut, post-rut, secondary rut, the third rut, which we're seeing a lot of great third rut activity right now in early January, which is really cool. Scrapes, I saw a really nice 4 to 5 year old 8-point going by making scrapes for 100 yards, probably about 4 scrapes. He's really stood up on his hind legs and really was hitting them hard. But those great morning bedding area hunts don't begin in September. They don't begin in June. They begin now. And there's a series of things that I want to do to this location. And you can see we have a beautiful food plot. This whole food plot's going to be rimmed in switchgrass. It'll be about 3 feet high going into the hunting season, maybe 4 feet. And that'll establish an effective screen. And part of that screen, the reason we want that switchgrass is then the deer feel comfortable right behind it. And so we have this big food plot. We're going to have a big bank of switchgrass up along the top so we can access. It'll be 30, 40 feet wide. We can access right through it. Deer won't see us back down here. They won't hear us. That switchgrass is nice because it absorbs scent, it absorbs sound, and we'll put a layer of Northwoods Whitetail HD screening. It's the best screening product out there, and I'm not just saying that because I like John Northwoods Whitetail. I'm saying it because it's the best. That's one of the things he specializes in. No food in the screening at all, and you don't want to attract deer to the screen to food. But imagine this whole thing wrapped in switchgrass. That establishes a bedding layer. Now on this side, we've talked about paralleling lines to the food plot. We're creating bedding by knocking down timber downhill, and on the downhill side of these benches, there's a series of benches in there. There's already bedding in there. And so we're trying to stick as many deer as possible here because we own down to the bottom of this draw and then back up the other side, and it's almost like doing the same thing over there. We have a series of smaller food plots over there, so paralleling the cover down in this bottom. So this is an area we don't want to go into. We're going to create really good bedding. We have a stand set up right here that we can sneak into behind switchgrass and hunt this outside corner where they're moving. We have a great licking branch right here. You can even see the licking branch has been broken in half because they've been working it pretty good. We have a stand set up there that we can hunt. We hung that stand set up for Negan this year. He's a beautiful buck, and he was shot in October, actually a couple miles away. You know, good person that shot him, so I'm happy for him, but it kind of spoiled me, or not spoiled me, it kind of turned me off from using the stand set that we put out for him, and then he was dead. And that's the way it works. That's hunting. Over here, we have a water hole that we're going to take out of commission, and we just didn't have time to do it this year, but it's in a really poor spot. We can't actually hunt it. And then behind that, you can see this corner of timber. I don't want deer in there, because if I have deer in there, I can't access through that corner of the woods. So we're making this side 10 times better, even adding red cedar. You know, like I said, the switchgrass will be here, and we're doing the same on the other side. So we're holding a lot of deer on this side. That frees up access over here, and especially when there's switchgrass here, we could access through the woods. You can see the white snow all the way back there, about 200 yards. We can access around. In the whole setup for this, we have movement over on this side where it's a connection between food sources and switchgrass, and we'll show that in the future. So we have stand locations over there. You can actually see the redneck above the junk pile way in the back. Pretty good effective screening in front of that. If you notice this point right here, this point is pretty long. It's also pretty open. If you look back in here, you can see a long ways down and back in here. Once we get the switchgrass here, deer don't have to feel like they're bedded 60 yards back, and they can see right out in the food plot. They don't want that. Not to mention, if there's any winds coming across here, then they just really slam into the deer that are back here. Deer don't bed facing the sun for warmth. That's a big myth. They bed to get out of the wind. So if the heavy northwest winds are coming in, they get on the south facing slope, but once those northwest winds blow through for a couple days, lower the temperature, it turns back to the stable winds, which are south-southwest winds, and they'll bed on the north facing slope to get out of the wind. So when you have the switch here, it effectively blocks the wind going back, and we need to add some cover. So I want to access the backside of a bedding area that we can create all the way back here from the angle through a non-deer area in the morning. And I want to be able to find a stand location back here 150 yards off this food plot, maybe 200 yards before it drops off. Come in off the drop off through the side and wait for those deer to come back in the morning. And that setup begins now. Let's take a look in there. And I'm going to take you in here. What's cool about this is the first time I'm going back in here. You know, again, we focused on last year after buying the property in early June where we could kill bucks. We killed 5 bucks. We had a great season. We killed a monster, Kermit, some really nice ones. Dante shot a beautiful 10 just right back here, 40 yards away. But now we're starting to work on the details of the property, cutting timber, and this will be one of the morning setups that I can't wait to hunt. And I'm going to begin that now. It's early January, the day after the season ended. And let's take a look in here. I can't wait to go in here, look, see if there's any rubs, current bedding. But I want to find a back way that I can get in here off the side in the non-deer area and then hit this movement. And I think we're going to find a really good spot for a stand location. What I really like is next year we'll change this to an X's render cell cam, because if we're creating bedding area here and we have the switchgrass line, then I don't want to have to come back here to change this card. Right now we just change the card. We've had some great pictures here, including Negan in the summertime. You can see how this used to be down to here, but they broke it off, which is fine. It's still usable. It's crazy. We find some of these that have been up a while, they'll break it off up there. We had one where they were urinating in the scrape under where it broke off, and I can't even hardly reach the end of it where it broke off, but it's been established for so many years that they still go through here. So we're going to be able to watch this all with this trail camera right here, which will be a cell camera next year. But even just walking in here, the first bed is just right here. And if you notice back on this point, it's starting, there's a saddle, it goes down and goes back up. So we're really going to focus on that saddle. I love hunting these saddles on these little skinny points. So we're finding a cluster of 3 or 4 beds here, and we're only, oh boy, 50 yards off the field edge. But I don't want to be right here because we're only 50 yards off the field edge. I want all of this right here. Think of this with the rubs. There's it looks like what used to be a scrape down here. Broken branches. I bet you this is a nice scrape. Here you can see a broken branch right here. Urine in this spot right here. But I want to be behind all this so that there's a lot of activity before they even get back to me. So the more rubs, scrapes, and things going on up here, it takes them longer to get back. And I'm starting to notice this. I'm thinking off the end of this point or around this edge is going to be a great spot for a water hole too. And again, I'm going to access in from this side over here. Let's keep coming back here further. Now we're getting into that area where we're more like 80 to 100 yards off the field, and we're finding more beds in here still. And not that bad of a progression down here to walk in from the side in the morning around a switchgrass field and through a non-deer area. I'm not going to make cuttings on this side because I don't want the deer here. They're all going to be on that side. And but I'm seeing a bed here, beds over here, bed. And we're going to continue walking back because I'm starting to spot where there's a mature tree over here. I can see a white oak that's still holding its leaves. So that'd be a great cover tree next to a big mature, maybe red oak. I can see about 60, 70 yards away. And so I'm looking at these bucks. They'll come into a spot like this. And instead of just coming right down the middle, right up on top, a lot of times they're just over the edge and they're on this line right here. And they'll work right around this point and then continue on the other side. And I want to be on the outside of this point or waiting right before it drops off. So we're going to keep walking back and take a look at this. Now, one of the things that I want to find is when we're coming around this point, I want to find a natural area that deer are already using as a travel corridor, especially as a buck that would cruise around here. And so you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You don't want to say, well, there's a big tree way down there, so I want them to go on that ledge, and they're not. I want to find where they're already currently traveling on. And if I'm coming through here to enhance this, then on the top up there that we first walked through, I want to scatter trees cut. Whether it's a hinge cut with small trees, I'll start with big canopy trees like undesirable oaks, maple, shagbark hickory, and popple, and I'll get those down, and I'll do it in a manner that the deer could still maze and pocket through there, like I talk about in bedding, where they have trails crisscrossing through pockets. So that cutting will be up there. But then I'm going to look for areas like this that I can actually connect the dots all the way up to the corner of the field and create a travel corridor through here where I'm taking some of the young timber in here and I'm just simply hinging it to the side or dropping mature undesirables to the side on either side so that I can create that tunneled trail where we could basically ride a mountain bike through here during the summertime on that trail. So if I'm creating that trail, I have the bedding on the inside up on that point. I'm accessing around through the uncut timber where it's open, and I'm getting into a stand where I can look down at deer making this transition around this point and blow my scent off this point. I can blow it that way over the hollow, that way, over that way. So I have a pretty big area where I can blow it because it's a point, and the deer are never going to smell me coming off here. I can smell like a pig coming in here hunting, and it's not going to bother those deer. I like this area right here because we're finding just a row of bedding opportunity, and it looks like a little tunnel through here. And you can see, obviously from does, but we're coming through here, and it looks like some cherry falling down, and they're eating a little bit in here. But bottom line is, it represents that really good outside travel of movement, and you can see it is super steep off this side, just drops straight down. So this is definitely that spot that we want to focus on for that edge, or we want to set up a stand location. So if we come right here, what I like about this location is we can sit right back here in this hickory and get up, 20 feet. We have the cover, the side cover of the white oak right next to us. We would come just through a skinny trail to get into this stand right around this outside. And then we have this flat. We're probably 150 yards away from the field edge. So we're right in that sweet spot. And what I like is I can come in on this downhill side, so my access sound is blocked from up there. And again, we're coming into this area with the wind in our favor. And then we're coming here in the early morning, and we're setting up, and we're getting in a location where I'll actually probably get a little vertigo here, because if we're up there at 20 feet in one of our family tradition ladders, it's straight down. It's really steep down the bottom, and that hollow goes all the way out. I can see the road way over there in the field, a half mile away, 3/4 mile away, whatever it is. And if you look, we have this trail coming around. There's a lot of deer trails. We're getting a lot of bedding. But even in a spot like this, now I'd have to come around a little bit further. And the further I come around here, the riskier it is, because I'm getting closer to deer. But we have another oak we could put a stand in right here, over here. And that might be a better location. But we're right on that movement still. And you see all the movement through here. There's urine and beds everywhere. And what I like about this spot is that there's a small 2-track coming into this location. And this would be perfect for setting up a water hole, where we could put a water hole right back in here somewhere. Now we're 25 yards away from that shagbark. This oak right here, we could get up in. There's some good branch structure. We'd be really close. I'd put the water hole up there further, but I can put a water hole in here. And this is where I do take a chance and come in here and fill it. Let's say, make sure, like this time of year, this year would have been a great one to fill because it was dry. But I'm coming into the back side of bedding. Bedding would be all across this top, up above. Trees crisscross back and forth. We'd have one trail that I could back in here with a Kubota and put water in a water hole. I'd have the actual deer corridor, travel corridor that comes around here. Something that we could use it for hiking in the wintertime. Literally, we could ride a mountain bike on it, one of our quiet cats, because it's going to be free of debris, logs. And it's going to go right back around this and head right to the big bedding area that we're creating off the side of the food plot. We're just getting off on this. And whether it's a buck coming in here and bedding in the early season, and we're sneaking in, taking a chance on that opening day, but especially the pre-rut, rut, peak rut, post-rut, second rut, third rut, we're creating the ability for us to get around here in the morning and wait for those deer to come back to us. We have the layers of cutting, we have the switchgrass, we're coming in through the non-deer area, we're getting into the side of a big bedding. You can see where it opens up and flattens out right here. Really nice trail right here. Again, this is that connection that we expect to see, and we're seeing it we're just going to follow the deer travel corridor that they're already using. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. So I actually like, the more I'm looking at it, one of these two trees over here for one of the oak or the shagbark hickory, getting over here is just too far. But I like following this trail and just running this travel corridor right back to the bedding over on the side of the food plot over here. We're coming into a real non-invasive area because deer are not going to be down here on this really, really steep face. There's no reason for them to be. They're not pushed there. We have a lot more habitat. So there's no real reason for them to get down there. I mean, I can see almost straight down. This is the type of hill that's steep enough we wouldn't go down this hill with this much snow on, because we're going to end up tumbling pretty bad. We'd have to slide. I've been on hills like this in the wintertime, and it's one of those where you get halfway down and you wish you were back up on top. and you can't go back up on top because it's too slippery, and you have to keep sliding down, and it's pretty downright dangerous. But that's why we would look at this rim trail going around, and we're just going to follow where the deer have been, and whether it's when there's no snow on the ground and we just follow the trail, or when there's snow and the deer are showing it to us in the snow. Pretty easy to find. But I'm seeing bedding area up on top, maze and pockets, the deer can go back and forth any direction. One rim trail that a deer can go, and you can scent check that whole bedding area without having to bird dog through it. Potential water hole in this location based on, and I think there's going to be another water hole 300 yards away on the other side of this food plot, maybe 400 yards, and that'll be the next water hole. So I can see how this can all come together. But again, it starts now. We'll cut during the winter. We'll put the water hole. May to me is officially water hole month because we still get a lot of rain. It naturally fills. You dig it in. It's a long time before hunting season deer get used to it. This would be a great spot for a camera on that water hole, maybe a mock scrape in the foreground or background of that water hole, so we have that combination. Definitely a cell camera back here, and it'll tell us the entire movement of what's going on here when bucks are actually cruising. And we'll set it up, we'll set up in stages throughout the year. I like putting the mock scrapes up in the end of June, July. We could clear these shooting lanes. I like clearing when there's little leaves on the trees so that we can actually clear and expect to have openings instead of them growing in when we get into. So I like clearing shooting lanes more in June and July as opposed to March and April when the leaves aren't out yet. And so you can see how these are stages, and I talk about, habitat chores and deer hunting chores you do each month. But you can kind of see how we're going to work on bedding area, then we're going to work on travel corridor. The bedding area itself will define travel around the outside that's already here. We're just complementing it. Then we'll make the travel corridor. We could do that in April if we wanted to, or March. Then we're putting a water hole back here in May. Then we're putting a mock scrape here at the end of June, July. We're clearing shooting lanes, May, June, we're picking a tree. And then I don't need to install that tree until July, August. There's no reason to install that earlier. I want to install it toward, that middle of summer when trees are getting in dormancy. And that way they've already put their diameter on for the year. So I'm not stretching straps or anything. I'm putting it in pretty fresh, and it's sitting there until hunting season. And really then it's a matter of left just to watch the trail cameras. The trail camera I'm putting out as soon as I make the mock scrape. And then we'll go from there. And then I'm making an access trail sometime midsummer as well. Just for me, even later summer, and we'll be all set for a great deer hunt here and a morning stand on the backside of bedding going into this fall. And I'm excited about this location. Again, this is the first time I've even been back here, so it's kind of cool to look around, and I'm just amazed how far it goes down right here and then back up the other side, and we do own on that side too. So we have a whole draw full of potential deer. And again, I say that this property is at 20 to 30% of its potential. Not much has been done on here other than food plots. And in the past, the way it was hunted, there's a couple rednecks for the most part, and pretty invasive. So with several acres of switchgrass and improvement of food plots and in creating bedding in here and better access routes, we're going to take it to a 10 out of 10 within a couple years as far as the work being complete. And this is one of those that we couldn't have pulled together last summer because there's too many pieces we have to fit into this location. But we'll be able to do it to this fall, and we'll bring the entire process to you, which I can't wait to do so. And ultimately, I hope it helps you with your own designs. And think of this, even if this was flat, us coming into this area, we're getting on the back side of a bedding area. Maybe your property ends down there. There's mature timber on the neighbors you're blowing your scent into. This could work whether the land's flat, whether it's a point like this right here. And think about this, even if that's a clear cut up there on public land, you're coming back in this location on the backside of bedding, you're blowing your scent into a non-deer area. Folks, it's all the same concept. People say, well, we should do a more public land or small parcel, big parcel. Texas, Louisiana, Alabama versus Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Folks, it's all the same concept. It's everything. It's the same. I hunt this the same way, whether it's on public land in Pennsylvania, I just go find it, or we're here in southeast Minnesota and we build it. Hope it helps you. We can't wait to build it. That's some of the fun. I know you guys, there's so many comments I get where folks appreciate the process as much as the hunt, and I'm in that same boat. But ultimately, if I couldn't hunt the land, I wouldn't complete the process. Why would you bother? So it all boils down to the hunt, having a great hunt. And it's pretty cool getting back here and looking at it. A little bit more to work with than I thought back here. Can't wait to bring it to you. Can't wait to bring the hunt to you in this fall. And you know, if you're looking for my hunts, they're all in my strategy videos. So you just look by date. Obviously, the videos I'm putting out in late September, October, November, December, and January have some type of hunt involved, and we're putting those hunting shots in there and process, and that's where you'll find my hunts, because it all boils down to strategy. Yeah, I can show you, you know, the hunt where I shot Kermit last year, and I might do so, but we've shown that shot with Kermit and talked about it so many different times in so many videos, and that strategy is what's worth it and where I think there's value in. And hope you enjoy the process of this bedding area hunt that we're going to set up for 2021. Now, as we transition into habitat season, I hope you've had a chance to check out my web class, How to Design Your Whitetail Parcel. It's on my website, whitetailhabitatsolutions.com. I have a link in the description, and I hope you can find it, check it out, and enjoy it this year.